which is hosted by the Clean Energy Solution Center in partnership with Organization of American States in the Inter-American and Caribbean Network of Small Hotels. Today's webinar is focused on energy management, benefits and challenges, and energy savings opportunities in small and medium-sized hotels. Before we begin, I'll quickly go over some of the webinar features. For audio, you have two options. You may either listen through your computer or over the telephone. If you choose to listen through your computer, please select the mic and speakers option in the audio pane. Doing so will eliminate the possibility of feedback and echo. If you choose to dial in by phone, please select the telephone option, and a box on the right side will display the telephone number and audio pin you should use to dial in. If anyone is having any technical difficulties with this webinar, you may contact the GoToWebinars help desk at 888-259-3826 for assistance. If you'd like to ask a question, we ask that you use the questions pane where you may type it in. The audio recordings and presentations will be posted to the Solution Center training page within a few days of the broadcast and will be added to the Solution Center YouTube channel where you'll find other informative webinars as well as video interviews with thought leaders on clean energy policy topics. Finally, one important note of mention before we begin our presentation is that the Clean Energy Solution Center does not endorse or recommend specific products or services. Information provided in this webinar is featured in the Solution Center resource library as one of many best practices resources reviewed and selected by technical experts. Today's webinar agenda is centered around the presentations of our guest panelists, Loretto Duffy-Meyers and Adriana Villoslota, who have joined us to share the best practices to promote affordable, reliable, and sustainable and modern energy use among small and medium-sized hotels in America. Before we jump into the presentations, I'll provide a quick overview of the Clean Energy Solution Center, and then we'll have some welcoming remarks from Richard Campbell of the Organization of American States. Then following the panelist presentations, we'll have a question and answer session where the panelists will address questions submitted by the audience. At the end of the webinar, you'll be automatically prompted to fill out a brief survey as well. So thank you in advance for taking a moment to respond. The Solution Center was launched in 2011 under the Clean Energy Ministerial. The Clean Energy Ministerial is a high-level global forum to promote policies and programs that advance clean energy technology, to share lessons learned and best practices, and to encourage the transition to a global clean energy economy. 24 countries in the European Commission are members, covering 90% of the clean energy investment and 75% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. This webinar is provided by the Clean Energy Solution Center, which focuses on helping government policymakers design and adopt policies and programs that support the deployment of clean energy technologies. This is accomplished through the support in crafting and implementing policies relating to energy access, no-cost expert policy assistance, and peer-to-peer learning and training tools such as this webinar. The Clean Energy Solution Center is co-sponsored by the governments of Australia, Sweden, and the United States, and with in-kind support of the governments of Chile. The Solution Center provides several clean energy policy programs and services, including a team of over 60 global experts that can provide remote and in-person technical assistance to the governments and government-supported institutions, no-cost virtual webinar trainings on a variety of clean energy topics, partnership building with development agencies and regional and global organizations to deliver support, in an online library containing over 5,500 clean energy policy-related publications, tools, videos, and other resources. Our primary audience is made up of clean energy policymakers and analysts from governments and technical organizations in all countries, but we also strive to engage with private sectors, NGOs, and civil society. The Solution Center is an international initiative that works with more than 35 international partners across its suite of different programs. Several of the partners are listed above and include research organizations like IRENA and IEA, and programs like SE for All, and the regional focused entities such as ECOWAC, Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. A marquee feature of the Solution Center provides is the no-cost expert policy assistance known as Askanexpert. The Askanexpert service matches policymakers with more than 60 global experts selected as authoritative leaders on specific clean energy finance and policy topics. For example, in the area of energy efficiency financing, we are very pleased to have Ivan Jernanov of Equinor serving as one of our experts, If you have a need for policy assistance in energy efficiency financing or other clean energy sectors, we encourage you to use this valuable service again. Again, this assistance is provided free of charge. If you have a question for our experts, please submit it through our simple online form at cleanenergysolutions.org/expert. We also invite you to spread the word about this service to those in your networks and organizations. Now I'd like to provide a brief introduction for today's panelists. First up today is Loretto Duffy Mayers. She has worked as an environmental manager in several green hotels in the Caribbean and is currently the regional program manager for the Caribbean Hotel Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Action Program. Following Loretto, we'll hear from Adrienne Villoslada. Adrienne is an international business development specialist at CREA. She has more than 10 years of experience with multilateral projects in the areas of sustainability, economic development, and competitiveness. And with those brief introductions, I'd like to welcome Richard Campbell to the webinar to give a few opening remarks from AOS. Richard?
Good morning, and thank you, Katie. Good morning to all. First of all, let me start by welcoming each and every one of you to this important webinar on energy management, benefits, challenges, and energy savings opportunities in small and medium-sized hotels. The Organization of American States is delighted to partner with the Clean Energy Solutions Center and the Inter-American Caribbean Network and Caribbean Network of Small Hotels, INCAF, in organizing this important webinar. As you all would know, energy costs are some of the most significant items affecting the bottom line and by extension, the competitiveness of small hotels in our region. The purpose of this webinar is to promote affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy usage among small hotels in the Americas in general, but this one focusing especially on small and medium-sized hotels in the Caribbean. It is the second such webinar produced in collaboration with the Clean Energy Solutions Center, the first one being held in November last year and delivered in Spanish. This series of webinars is part of the OS's support to tourism SMEs, tourism small, medium-sized enterprises in the region, and in particular, the small accommodation subsector. Tourism industry people in the Caribbean remain among our principal stakeholders, so we felt very strongly that we must include a dedicated webinar in English specifically targeting this group. The OAS has had a long track record of support to the small and hotel sector in the Caribbean, dating back to the early 2000s through the Small Tourism Enterprise Project. Many of you may recall that the Small Tourism Enterprise Project, or STEP as it was so fondly known in the region, targeted small hotels with 75 rooms or less and other small enterprises offering tourism services such as attractions, transportation, guided tours, restaurants, cultural entertainment experiences, etc. STEP's key objectives were to enhance the competitiveness of tourism enterprises to meet international standards, to implement environmental standards, to enhance awareness of sustainable tourism development requirements for the region, to provide training and capacity building programs tailored to the requirements of small tourism enterprises and to contribute to achieving these objectives, and also to increase access to best environmental management practices. It was with respect to the objective of increasing access to best environmental management practices that the OAS was able to provide assistance to small hotels in the Caribbean through the provision of toolkits for environmental walkthroughs, environmental conservation, and energy management. These tools were provided over 15 years ago. So with the changes in technology, updated information is clearly required to be provided as we go forward. We are therefore deeply indebted to our partners at the Clean Energy Solutions Center, as well as our expert presenters today, Loretto Duffy Mayers from CHINAC and Adrienne Villoslada from the CREA Energy Experts, for consenting to deliver these presentations and to provide this important information. Our other partner in this exercise is the Inter-American and Caribbean Network of Small Hotels, which was formed in San Jose, Costa Rica in 2013 and was duly constituted 1 year later in Quito, Ecuador in 2014. The network was established as a mechanism to promote closer links among the owners and operators of small hotels in the Americas sub-region, and to share experiences, case studies, and best practices, and to undertake joint activities. The annual meetings or encounters of the network, as they have been called, have often either received information on energy efficiency or lamented the need for improved energy efficiency in small hotels. As we continue our support to the small hotel sector, we look forward to collaborating further on initiatives related to energy efficiency and energy management with our partners. With your cooperation, these initiatives will be successful in contributing to the competitiveness of the important small hotel sector in each of your destinations, while giving other small tourism enterprises the opportunity to be more competitive during these challenging times. These are the end of my remarks, and from the OS, I want to say again, welcome to all of you, and to thank you to the Clean Energy Solutions Center and to our valuable presenters this morning, and we look forward to a successful webinar. Thank you. Back to you, Katie.
Wonderful. Thank you for those opening remarks, Richard. We really appreciate it. We are going to start with Loretto today. Loretto, welcome to the webinar. We are going to, you should be seeing a screen share with you right now.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. Welcome.
Yeah. I am having some challenges here. So if I disappear, I think you may have to go straight to Adriana, but I'm going to try very hard and hope it works.
Okay, wonderful. Would you like us to show your slides for you, just in case you have any issues?
Yes.
Okay, great. It looks great. Okay, wonderful. Welcome, Loretto, to the webinar. It's all yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, good morning, everyone. I think, as was explained earlier, you know, the whole focus of the webinar is on energy management benefits, challenges, and energy saving opportunities in small and medium-sized hotels. Well, the CHINACT program, which had been running for the last 9 years or so, and is a joint venture of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, which is the private sector side of the accommodation sector, and the Caribbean Tourism Organization, which is the umbrella organization over the ministries of tourism. And the program was funded by, in the main by IDB, and then by the CDE, which was a European Union organization, GIZ, UNEP, and the governments of the countries. Basically, the objective of CHINACT was to improve the competitiveness of the small and medium-sized hotels, which is less than 400 rooms in the Caribbean region, through improved use of energy. I actually went far too far ahead in that last slide, but basically what we focused on was doing initially energy audits in hotels throughout the region, but the main focus was on Barbados, Bahamas, Jamaica, though we did touch hotels in the Eastern Caribbean, Dominican Republic, and Trinidad and Tobago. We did, in total, we audited at approximately 170 hotels, either through detailed energy audits or walkthroughs, and the results that we found were extremely interesting. But the object now was to try, and initially we were looking at renewable energy, but of course we discovered that until energy efficiency is covered, renewable energy actually can be way more expensive than it should be. So we focus very much on trying to implement energy efficiency opportunities. Oh, sorry, I've gone backwards now again. Now, the electricity consumption in the Caribbean hotels by end use showed us very clearly that air conditioning takes up almost 50% throughout the whole region. There are some areas that will be slightly more, but unless you have no air conditioning, this is basically the scenario across the board. Lighting took up 11.5%, and kitchen and refrigeration equipment was the next highest one at almost 11%. So the focus that we made was basically on those three areas where we thought we could make the most impact. And throughout our audits, we found that there was potential savings of anything from 10% up to about 65% in energy and up to 50% in water. And one of the things that we recognize is that people don't realize that there is a correlation between your water use and your energy use, because if you are, it takes energy obviously to pump water, and if you are wasting water, you're also wasting energy. We also discovered, that's quite surprisingly, that energy could account for up to 60% of operational costs in some hotels. Now, it wasn't often that high, but we did find some small hotels who were having serious challenge with their energy bills. This slide here shows the difference between the three main countries that we touched, Jamaica, Bahamas, and Barbados. And what it will show you is that the average, which is the line you see in the middle, the average use per guest night, the average kilowatt hours per guest night in Jamaica, 50.56 kilowatt per guest night. Bahamas, 81.56 kilowatt hours per guest night, while Barbados was 32.17. Now, that shows that Bahamas is using nearly, not quite, but nearly 3 times what Barbados is using, while Jamaica is using nearly twice. So the question straight away, why? Now, Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, and that would include anybody from, say, Antigua all the way down to, well, we leave out Trinidad in this case because their energy usage was significantly different, but all the way down to, say, Grenada. And what we found was that the clientele was significantly different, in that our clientele in the Eastern Caribbean tends to be much more UK, Europe, and other Caribbean, while that of Bahamas and Jamaica tended to be North American. And I think we all know that in the hospitality business, that the North Americans, well, more so the Americans rather than the Canadians, seem to love Arctic temperatures in their rooms. I mean, we tend to have to set the air conditioning units at about 15 degrees in those rooms, as opposed to in the Eastern Caribbean, you know, it's quite comfortable at 23 degrees, and most of the time we found a lot of the guests don't even use air conditioning. We found the difference also was significant in the building design. Those in the Eastern Caribbean, the buildings tend to be much more open. There's very few hotels having closed lobbies and closed. We tend to have open corridors, so there's less to actually air-conditioned buildings. Whereas for varying reasons in both Bahamas and Jamaica, there's the building designs tend to be enclosed. Bahamas actually can get cold, so therefore, you know, having an open lobby here is very uncomfortable. But apart from that, I think for security reasons, temperature
Loretto, we seem to be losing some audio. Loretto, can you hear me? All right, it seems to be that we're having some technical difficulties with Loretto. We'll try to get her back online. Adriana, would you be, can we go to you for your presentation and we'll go back to Loretto when we get her back online?
Yes, I'm ready.
Wonderful. We will change this, the webinar over to you. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adriana, and we will work on our technical issues with Loretto. And thank you so much. Welcome to the webinar, Adriana.
Thank you very much. So I will be presenting now, since Loretto is experiencing this issue. My presentation is focused on the notion of nearly zero energy hotels, what we call NECE. I will be talking about the European project and the European experience. My presentation will have 3 main points. The first is the concept of a NECE hotel. What does it mean? The second will be an overview of one of the pilot projects in the context of this project, which is the Corona del Mar Hotel. And finally, I will go through the issue of financing this kind of energy efficiency and sustainable energy projects in the hospitality sector. So what is a nearly zero energy hotel? Well, the definition is quite simple. It's just a hotel with a very high level of energy efficiency. And that energy efficiency can be reached also with the use of renewable energy sources. That can be, for example, an on-site generated energy. So we can be talking about energy efficiency hotel, which also have a photovoltaic plant in its facility. The goal of the European project was to accelerate the rate of large-scale renovation in hotels in Europe. That was a project financed by the European Union, and we participated in this program as the national leader for Spain with other big engineering and consulting firms in Europe. So the way that the European Commission supported European hotels were by three means. First is providing technical advice to the hotels that were committed to the program. The second was choosing some pilot projects, what we call the nearly zero hotel pilot projects, and using them as demonstrating flagships. And third was providing these hotels with training and capacity building support. That last point included also some support with promotional material, marketing plans, etc. So they could also benefit from that improvement of their image because they became more sustainable. But maybe out of all this support, what was more important was the technical part that we provided when analyzing their energy balance, and we studied the facilities of the hotels, identifying the main opportunities for energy efficiency. So in order to select the best hotels for this program, we conducted a selection process where we, at the beginning, we had 30 applications from different hotels that came from a public call, and out of them, only 5 candidates were audited to determine whether they could be a good pilot case or not. So shortlisting the 5 hotels was the first task. Then conducting feasibility studies of the hotels to assess their capability of developing energy-saving measures. And third, after that audits, finally we selected only 2 pilot projects. And this selection process was replicated in each European country that made part of the NECE project. So now we enter in the second point of this presentation, and is the pilot case of Corona del Mar Hotel. So as I said, Corona del Mar was one of those hotels that were selected. This is a medium hotel, a small medium hotel, not very different to those in the Caribbean, I understand. Also, the weather is not that different because it is located in the Mediterranean area and it's in the coast. So the weather is usually very warm. It's a first-line beach hotel with 129 rooms, and it's open the whole year. One of the reasons that made us to select Corona del Mar was that this hotel had proved to have a serious concern with environment and energy efficiency. For example, they already had the ISO 40001. They also hold the EMA certification, and they even had conducted a carbon footprint project, and they had the calculation of the emissions of the hotel. So, as I said, from a technical standpoint, it's important to start looking at the facilities of the hotel. So what we usually call as an energy audit or energy study. Just to make you aware of the type of construction, it was from the late 60s, 69. It has a consumption, or had a consumption of energy of 1,697 megawatts hour, with 129 rooms and 93,888 the number of stays through the whole year. So the occupancy level of the hotel is high. It's almost 80% of during the whole year. So it was that is to say that it was a relatively busy hotel. It's a very touristic area here in Spain. Okay, so below there is a summary of the main end-use equipment of and facilities of the hotel. So as we can see, when we look into the different energy equipment, is not very efficient. For example, when it comes to lighting, Hotel Corona del Mar had only a 4% of efficient lighting, which is the LED, while the other technologies were pretty old and inefficient. They also had 6 boilers and a lot of fan coils. Here, as in Barbados, the air conditioning, it's mandatory at least 5 months or 6 months in a year. And Hotel Corona del Mar also has a very energy intense facilities such as the spa, the gym, sauna, restaurant, kitchens, conference room, etc. So our engineers, they conducted this energy study, trying to identify the consumption share by use and by fuel type. So we found out that electricity was responsible for the 64% of the energy consumption, while propane gas was the 36%. Propane gas was mostly used for the kitchen and the hot water. Going through consumption equipment, the largest consumption were found in the kitchen equipment, laundry, and cold chambers. So that indicated that those were the areas to study and to focus on in order to save energy. After conducting the energy audit, we found out the most interesting energy saving measures. Usually when engineers conduct this kind of studies, they come up with a list of the best measures to implement, and what we do is that we present them with different level of priority depending on the technical and financial criteria. So obviously what is more attractive for the client, in this case for the hotel, is that measure that that is easy to implement from a technical standpoint, but also has a good payback or a good return on the interest. So according to this criteria, implementing all these measures, we could save up to 37% of the energy consumption. And investment required to implement all these measures would be almost €500,000, 580,000 euros. One of the most expensive measures was the replacement of the boilers that were used for heating the pumps. This is for climatization. And the amount of savings that could be reached through this replacement would be up to 10%, but the investment needed will be 105,000 euros. The time that we will be needing to get paid back from that measure will be more than 8 years. I'm gonna talk only about the other two measures following this order, that are the ozone system for the laundry. This is a very, I could say, a pretty modern technology to replace the use of electricity, but even to save some money in the need of using hot water to clean the clothes. And the third is the aerators. It's a technology that is used to the faucets of the hotel to reduce the overflow and consequently save some energy. Okay. So after implementing these measures, the energy savings that were achieved by Hotel Corona del Mar were 623,000 kilowatts hour per year, which means a 37% of the reduction on the total energy consumption. In terms of money, that implies 51,830 euros per year that were savings for the hotel. And also it had a very good impact on the CO2 emissions. They were cut by 38%. And the investment needed, as I said, was almost €500,000, or more than €500,000, basically. Hotel Corona del Mar was also a success because it provoked other hotels within this hotel chain that is called RH to also implement sustainable energy projects. So another 17 hotels were encouraged by this experience with Corona del Mar to conduct energy audits, do carbon footprint calculation, going through energy improvement renovations, etc. Okay, this is the last part of my presentation. I'm gonna talk very briefly about how can we manage to finance this type of projects. In the case of NESE project, there were three possibilities or three sources of financing. One is always the own hotel resources or the hotel capability to get financing into going through commercial banks. The second is using the available European or national financial instruments that can be credit loans with special advantages or better interest rates. Sometimes a lot of countries, they have subsidies or grants for this kind of projects, depending on the on each country and its policy. And finally, and I'm going to explain this with a little bit more of detail. It exists the possibility of financing these projects through an energy performance contracting company or an ESCO company. So an ESCO company is the type of company that uses its resources to invest in the hotel renovation project, and it gets paid through the savings that the ESCO achieve through this program. So the idea is that conducting the energy measures will generate an amount of savings, energy efficiency savings, and even energy incomes that through different years it will produce a cash flow that finally will be used to pay for the investment needed. So it has some benefits because it's the company, the ESCO company, is the one who makes the upfront payments. The hotel doesn't need to have that amount of cash available to start the energy efficiency project. The ESCO company, usually it's an expert in energy efficiency, or in energy sector. So they will be in a better position to determine which are the best measures to implement and to guarantee that those savings will be achieved. That is what we say, that these kind of projects are guaranteed somehow, because the energy savings will happen. There are not investment risks because it's assumed by the ESCO, and also the energy operational and management performance will be better because it's done by the ESCO, who is the expert. Of course, as many of you may know, there are a lot of types of energy of ESCO companies and different type of projects depending on the share of risk and the different the conditions and particularities of each contract. So, to put it simpler, what does it mean that a NECE project is bankable? Well, a project is bankable if lenders are willing to finance it. And how do they decide if this is a bankable project? There are two criteria which are very common financial indicators. First is the net present value. If the project is able to generate positive cash flows through the lifetime of the project, then it will be a bankable project. And also if the internal rate of return is high, because that means that compared to other potential projects, the energy efficiency project has a good internal rate of return, has a good profitability finally. So why are these projects often attractive and profitable? Well, the good news of energy efficiency projects is that they generate incomes and they also lower some costs. We were talking about the amount of money that is in energy as an operational cost in the Caribbean hotels. Well, through energy efficiency projects, it's expected to lower this kind of costs because energy and water consumption are expected to be lower, but also because of the lower costs for maintenance and replacement rate. Because usually the ESCO company also assumes the replacement of the bulbs, of the lamps, of the climatization equipment when needed. And also the other advantages of these projects is that they can benefit from a better image of sustainability that can attract more tourists, more people to that hotel. Finally, this is my final slide, and this is the the process, how the bank usually assess this type of projects. So usually the hotel conducts a feasibility study, that's what we call the energy audit, and presents that energy audit to the bank. The bank conducts a project evaluation and a risk analysis using their own protocols and forms, and decides to give credit to that project with or without a warranty, depending on the bank's stance on that project. And the hotel will implement the project with the support of that ESCO. And ESCO can be also the contractor, can be the technology provider, the engineering firm. That will be the company implementing the energy measures and putting the efficient technologies in place. Through that project, the credit is paid back to the bank through the energy savings and the amount of money that is saved in each bill month by month. And this is how this project basically works with an ESCO financing partner. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adriana, for that presentation. I'd just like to take a moment to remind our attendees today that they could submit a question through the question pane at any time. We're still having some technical issues with Loreto, so we will make sure to post her presentation online so everyone has the ability to see that. We are going to go to some questions for Adriana. Adriana, our first question today is, which hotels are the best candidates for this project?
For
yes, yes.
Yes. Well, I think we will look for a hotel with big energy consumption, with large amount of energy consumption. Ideally, that will be also a hotel with good opportunities in terms of energy efficiency, because it's old, because it has all technologies in place. Those will be, I think, the two considerations.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Our next question is, was the wind generation project implemented considering it had 39 payback? Why solar photovoltaic energy was not considered as part of the energy efficiency savings projects?
Sorry, is this
Adriana?
Yes, can you Yes, yes.
You want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Was the wind generation project implemented considering it had 39 payback? And also, why solar photovoltaic energy was not considered as a part of energy efficiency savings projects?
Well, because in this case, it was the wind generation, the opportunity. Probably because photovoltaic needs a surface on the rooftop for it. So maybe they didn't have that possibility, because sometimes the rooftops in the hotels are very busy, at least here in Spain, because they have a rooftop or a bar or even a swimming pool.
Wonderful. Thank you for answering those couple of questions. We were able to reconnect with Loreto. Loreto, we're going to jump back to you to present your slides. Welcome back to the webinar.
Yes, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah. Show my screen. Let me go to my PowerPoint. Okay, I'm going right back to where I think we broke off, which was on the slide. Let me just see now. Where we were discussing the differences between the islands. Would that be correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And I think I probably yes. Well, okay. Just let me think. I think where we went off was where I was talking about the differences between the islands. We have an issue with the clientele. We have an issue with temperatures. We have an issue with in Barbados. We use solar water heating, and it's basically solar hot water heating or really cold water. We also have a supply of natural gas, whereas we found in the other islands it's almost all electricity. We discovered that water costs less than Barbados, so therefore it's not probably used as efficiently as it should. In Bahamas, the hotels have an electricity surcharge, and that unfortunately means that the hotels themselves really have no incentive for reducing their energy because the guests are paying for it. In Barbados as well, because they've been on this program for so much longer, we think it's because they'd already implemented a lot of the recommendations. So therefore, that would explain like why there was such significant differences between the islands. I'm going to give you some examples of energy saving opportunities, which we recommended in 3 different hotels. Now, this is a 25-room, very small hotel. And we recommended they turn off their mini fridges, which we found that is a problem in just about every hotel in this whole region. Mini fridges are left plugged in. We also noticed that a lot of those mini fridges are dinosaurs. Some of them are they're so long, they're still carrying R12 gas, which has been obsolete in North America and Europe for God knows how long. We discovered that a lot of these small hotels also have these big halogen floodlights. And a lot of that is because they have this idea in there that they must have these huge big bright lights out on the beach for security purposes, when in actual fact that's really not the reality of the situation. We also recommended that they replace their conventional air conditioning units with the inverter type units because, at the end of the day, really the Eastern Caribbean and say the smaller hotels in the northern, in the rest of the region are carrying split systems as opposed to central cooling units, which the much larger hotels would use. So that made a significant difference to them. We also recommended that they go now from the CFLs to LEDs. We did find situations in Jamaica where hotels were still using incandescent bulbs, surprisingly, in certain areas. But we did recommend, instead of going through the CFL and onto the LEDs, go straight to the LEDs. And in this particular case, a small PV installation, which was only to do their outdoor lights. Now, in this situation, the recommendation was just an expenditure of $28,000 to make annual savings of $19,000, which gave a payback period of 1.43 years. Now, you can see in a situation like that, it's a no-brainer, okay? This is a 247-room hotel, different altogether in the sense that this hotel was, using a lot more high-tech equipment, and so and they were also a very energy efficient hotel already. So you can see that there was a very large investment recommended down number 9 there, combined heat and power. But that in itself had a 4-year payback. That combined with all of the other recommendations was, to change out, say, things like the T12s and the T8 fluorescent lamps, to change them down to the T8 LEDs, plus the inefficient air conditioning units, to change those out, to put in a corporate utility management plan, which is basically an energy management plan for the whole hotel, and to do things like, turn off empty mini bars, turn off lights that are not needed, etc. And to do that, an investment of just under $3 million led to an annual cost savings of just $750,000. So the payback period was under 4 years, which was still very acceptable in the hospitality sector. And then finally, this was one of our champion hotels that, you know, we discovered in this particular hotel, and I just caught some of what Adriana was saying about, you know, the type of hotels that you actually look for are those that are using a huge amount of energy, and in most cases, it's unnecessary energy. You'll see the first 5 things here were things that there was a major savings to be made by just turning off things. In the case of water heater running unnecessarily, underutilized refrigerators, we found, I found in one hotel, one small hotel, I think possibly 25 rooms, they had fridges in every office, and every one of them had in a yogurt and a Coke. And so therefore, you know, we found this throughout the region where there are fridges that are plugged in, are usually very old and are absolutely costing a lot more money than they are needed to do. So we found in this particular hotel, there was a lot of, there was almost $40,000 just on unnecessary things plugged in. But in view with the rest of the recommendations, for the $9,000 recommendation, there was a potential saving of $117,000. Now, you know, they also, I have to say, went a lot further and invested some money into the hotel, which I'll tell you about in a couple of minutes. But, you know, so we see no-brainers is the thing all the time. That's what everybody said. So why have some of the hotels not implemented these recommendations? Well, we found 3 things, the 3 M's that are the biggest problem of the whole lot. Maintenance, monitoring, and money, where without a shadow of a doubt, the reasons why people do not do what appears to be the no-brainer solution. We found throughout the region that maintenance contracts are not taken out until something goes wrong, and by then it's usually too late. We found that the hotel staff and management really don't know what is working and what's not. And mainly that is due to a lack of training of the hotel staff. We found in most cases maintenance is outsourced. In fact, things like air conditioning maintenance, things like that, is given out to an outside company, so the staff never learn. They also tend to be firefighting rather than doing preventative maintenance. Some of the ACs are so old-fashioned, they're still using R22 gas. Fridges using R12, that kind of equipment should have been replaced long ago, and now it is absolutely necessary because they're already in breach of the Montreal Protocol and now will be in breach of the Kigali Amendment, which is looking at replacing all of the refrigerants nowadays with the natural gases. This is an example of a hotel where our auditors went in and saw a sign on the wall which says solar water switches should only be left on for 2 hours if needed. Now, they're only supposed to be turned on in the event that the guests complain that the hot water is not hot enough. And it usually means that the weather is bad and the solar is not working. These switches were on for the entire duration of the audit. And the auditors were there for 3 or 4 days. When they asked the question, the maintenance of the staff in the kitchen where the switches were told them, well, you know, we don't know. They've been like that all along. And when asked how long they were there, they were told they were there for 7 years. When they asked the maintenance manager about it, the maintenance manager says, oh, well, he came and found it like that. When they asked the hotel manager's response was, you'll have to speak to maintenance. So to our point of a lot of people don't know what's working and what's not. In this case, the electrical element in the solar hot water tanks was what was heating the water and not the solar panels. We found very little monitoring was done, the previous case being one in point. Bills are accepted and paid. Meter readers are read in some cases and logged, but they are not actually analysed. And staff in a lot of cases are not empowered to question things. Small hotels, we found, simply don't have the information to do proper analysis. Now, the water findings in a 200-room hotel, this was a very interesting one because this hotel had 3 leaks and they were not aware that they had them. They were continuing to pay their bills without question. And when we did the audit, we discovered that between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., the water usage was almost 50 cubic meters per hour. As you can see, that's 11,000 gallons of water per hour. And it was actually costing them in the region of 366,000 additional in energy and water that they were not aware of. We found in the case of money, As we are aware, hotels are in the business of selling food and drinks, and they don't see the importance of investment in energy efficiency. Too many hotels are focused on marketing and revenue rather than cost savings. They don't seem to see that that cost savings is a revenue as well. In the case of the small hotels, they're not able to get finance from the traditional sources like the commercial banks. And we have found generally that the commercial banks do not understand energy efficiency and its importance. We found in the re-audits that we did that we've seen an increase in guest nights in all hotels really throughout this region. So there's no question that the region has made a comeback. But unfortunately, few hotels have implemented all of the recommendations we made due to a lack of funding. Some have, yes, but most have not. And those that have done it are those that are owner managed, who recognize the importance of energy efficiency and are the ones that write the checks. But we have seen savings between 10% for just changing out lights right up to 62%. We found that the hotels, while they did repair their water leaks, did not do sufficient monitoring because leaks will always come back. I won't go into the ESCOs because Adriana did mention that, but we are constantly looking for energy service companies who are willing to look at the small hotels. Our problem in the region is that it's not a homogeneous region, in that every island has its own regulatory frameworks, and the market in each of the islands on its own is very, very small. So the energy service companies have really not shown the kind of interest that they would do in places like larger countries like Spain, Mexico, Canada, Dominican Republic, but are actively looking for energy service companies that would show an interest in doing some work with us. We have success stories. We have, we're looking at several new funding sources, and we see the opportunity for the ESCOs. Just before I let you see, this is our Connect website. I have just done a final update on the 5 demonstration projects that we did in the region. We did $50,000 grants to 5 hotels in Jamaica and Bahamas. We have installed 2 50-kilowatt PV systems in 2 hotels in Jamaica. We gave them grants of $50,000 each, and which they matched. And so with the results, the hotels now are up and running with their PV systems and already showing significant power savings, but they also have realized that the payback period has dropped significantly from the 7 years that they thought it was going to be down to 5. And that is also going downhill. We have another small hotel that we did in energy efficiency and a PV system installation, and we have found already that they're making in the region of about 15% savings per month. So the weather in Jamaica has not been good, and so the solar panels are not working in as well as they should, but we please hopefully that will improve. In the Bahamas now, we have 1 small hotel that again we gave a $50,000 grant, and they are matching out of their savings because they were very badly damaged by Hurricane Matthew, and they installed a solar hot water system and a solar cooling system for their kitchen, and they are already showing significant savings. But the Champion Hotel that I told you about in the Bahamas, who we gave a grant of $50,000 to, and they matched it with $60,000, their energy bill has dropped from $520,000 US a year to $250,000. So it's a savings of 62%, and they are a shining example to a lot of the other hotels in the region that this can be done. So I just finished by letting you see this is our Connect website, for which there's plenty of information that anybody can access. Hotels that have energy audits have to access obviously by a password, but it's up there and it's running, and there's a Facebook page, Connect, as well for further information. So there's the website and email address. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Loretto. I'm so glad we were able to reconnect with you. We do have some questions for both you and Adriana. I will start with you, Loretto. Excuse me. There we go. Our first question is, can you identify the organizations in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago in particular, that would be willing to fund energy conservation projects, I'm sorry?
Well, I mean, there's lots of programs going on at the moment, but in terms of funding, you mean grant funding for energy conservation projects?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, I don't know of any programs in Trinidad at the moment, because Trinidad, you know, it's very hard to get hotels interested in energy efficiency programs in Trinidad, for the simple reason that the energy costs are so much lower than everybody else's. And so also are their water costs. Now, we did do audits in Tobago at one point in time when the energy bills appeared to be a disproportionate amount of the operating costs of the hotel. And that was due to the fact that business in Tobago had declined significantly. Now, it may, I also noticed Trinidad saying that their numbers have declined. It may be a situation in the future whereby they may be able to apply to some of the aids which are doing energy efficiency in the region. But at the moment, I really don't know of anything at the moment that is looking specifically at Trinidad and Tobago.
Wonderful. Thank you for answering that. Our next question is for Adriana. Adriana, can you tell us, are there any future projects planned? Or study projects?
Yes, I'm here. You mean in the context of the NECE project? No, because the project ended a few years ago. But we are constantly working with hotels in energy efficiency projects. We are developing a big project with the European Investment Bank for energy efficiency and renewable energy project in small and medium hotels in Spain.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Going back to Loreto, what is the capacity of the PV projects?
The PV ones that we did?
Yes.
Well, we did two in two hotels in Jamaica, are both 50 kilowatt systems. And then we did a smaller one, maybe 4 or 5 kilowatt in a very small hotel in Portland in Jamaica.
Okay, wonderful. I would just like to give both of you an opportunity for any closing remarks that you may have or conclusions for today. Adriana, would you like to have any final words for today?
Well, yes, I just would like to encourage any of you, if you are hotel owners or experts, to have a look at these opportunities and conducting maybe low-cost feasibility study and see if it is appropriate to implement an energy efficiency project. For example, here in Spain lately, we are doing a lot of PV installation because it also depends on the regulation, and sometimes you can get support from your government or other institutions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Loreto, would you like to have any final remarks for today's webinar?
Well, yes. I mean, I have to agree with what Adriana says. You know, we have to encourage the hotels to look at reducing their energy costs. And, you know, there are a lot of low-cost ways of doing it. And to be perfectly honest with you, if those things have not already been done, really and truly, it's getting late in the day. We have to recommend that you implement some kind of an energy management system, or that you appoint an energy management person in the hotel to monitor what is really going on. Somebody who will read the bills every day and really analyze to see where the energy is being used, and to try to, put in some plans in place to try to reduce energy without compromising service. But as I said before, I mean, my main concern is that hotels have always been in the business of marketing their products, always looking for ways to increase their revenue, whereas there are so many areas that we've been able to prove that you can have a significant saving on your energy bill, which means that you don't have to, in actual fact, you don't have to increase your room rates, thereby making yourself less competitive. In actual fact, we found many hotels who made savings, significant savings of say between 30 and 50% and more, were able to add value to their product. So instead of increasing their room rates, they were able to add breakfast to their room rates and made themselves more competitive. So I think it's extremely important that hotels look at what is out there, look and see what is available to them, and do what they can to try to implement some of the energy savings recommendations that have been made.
Wonderful. Thank you again. On behalf of the Clean Energy Solutions Center, I'd like to extend thank you to all of our expert panelists and to our attendees for participating in today's webinar. We very much appreciate your time and hope in return that there were some valuable insights that you can take back to your ministries, departments, or organizations. We also invite you to inform your other colleagues and those in your networks about the Solution Center resources and services, including no-cost policy support through our Askanexpert service. I invite each of you to check the Solution Center website if you'd like to view the slides and listen to the recording for today's presentation, as well as previously held webinars. Additionally, you'll find information on upcoming webinars and other training events. We are also now posting the webinars recordings to the Clean Energy Solutions Center YouTube channel. Please allow about a week for the audio recording to be posted. Finally, I'd like to kindly ask you to take a moment to complete a short survey that will appear when we conclude the webinar. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to see you again at Clean Energy Solutions Center events. This concludes